While Skanderbeg was preoccupied with fighting on two fronts against the Venetians and Ottomans, Hunyadi had resolved to liberate the region from Ottoman rule. In September 1448, Hunyadi led his forces across the Danube, encamped in Serbia just outside the capital, Smederevo. For a full month, the Hungarians remained encamped, awaiting their German, Wallachian, Bohemian, and Albanian allies. One of the reasons Skanderbeg agreed to the peace deal with the Venetians on October 4th was to facilitate his efforts to join Hunyadi. After securing the peace, Skanderbeg marched to unite with Hunyadi's forces for what would become known as the Second Battle of Kosovo. However, the Serbian despot Durad Brankovic, who had earlier signed a truce with the Ottomans, obstructed Skanderbeg's passage. This betrayal prevented Skanderbeg from reaching Hunyadi in time. As a result, Hunyadi, with a crusader army of 24,000 men, decided to proceed without waiting for Skanderbeg's reinforcement. The ensuing battle ended in a devastating defeat for the Hungarians. As punishment for lending its support to Hunyadi, Murad attacked and submitted Wallachia in 1449, followed by Albania in 1450, where Skanderbeg continued to resist. In early 1450, Ottoman soldiers from their garrison in Gjirokastar quietly scaled the poorly guarded walls of Baradinaj, capturing the fortress and weakening Albanian morale. Gjergj Kastrioti, a notable member of the League of Lezhë, left the League in 1449 due to political complexities and changing alliances. He allied with Venice, but later returned to support key battles, including the defense of Krujë and recapture of Svetograd. During the Albanian-Venetian War, the pro-Venetian members of the League of Lezhë, such as the Balsha and Krujë families, exited the League. Despite setbacks, Skanderbeg fortified other strongholds, especially Krujë. Anticipating an Ottoman siege, he ensured Krujë had enough supplies for 16 months. To hinder the Ottomans, villagers around Krujë burned their crops and relocated to the mountains and fortresses. On May 14, 1450, the Ottoman forces, led by Sultan Murad II and his son Prince Mehmed, began the siege of Krujë. The Ottoman army, numbering over 100,000 men, 60,000 of which were cavalry and the rest composed of janissaries, infantry, and artillery units, significantly outnumbered the defenders. Before the siege began, Skanderbeg left Krujë with 8,000 men, including seasoned warriors, local militia, and several hundred foreign mercenaries. Of these, 2,000 were infantry and 6,000 were cavalry. Skanderbeg found Mount Tamanishta, now known as Skanderbeg Mountain, to be a suitable position from which to attack the Ottomans. Krujë was left with a garrison of 4,000 men under the experienced Albanian command of Vrana Konti. In addition to the predominantly Albanian forces, Vrana commanded several Germans, Italians, and Frenchmen. He emphasized the critical importance of the siege and carefully assigned their positions. Murad's heralds proposed an offer of 200,000 aspers, silver coins, for Vrana, along with promises of safe conduct and religious freedom for Krujë citizens if the castle surrendered. However, when the offer was refused, Murad resorted to using his cannons. In the meantime, Ottoman engineers constructed siege towers, trebuchets, and battering rams to breach the walls of Krujë. After 5 days of siege, until a breach was finally made, the Ottomans launched their initial assault. The Sultan believed that he had the advantage and ordered his troops through the walls. It had barely begun when shouts and commotion erupted from the rear. Skanderbeg's cavalry was tearing through the outskirts of the Turkish camp. After heavy losses, Ottomans managed to push Skanderbeg's forces back. As the assault on Krujë intensified, Vrana quickly brought in fresh reinforcements, and the castle walls held firm. The garrison managed to push the assault back, thus gaining time to repair the walls. Murad, fearing more attacks from Skanderbeg, sent a scouting patrol towards the surrounding mountains to watch for an attack. Skanderbeg still managed to lead, at dusk, a raid on the Turkish encampment, killing several hundred men, capturing and destroying Turkish supplies and almost losing his own life. When Skanderbeg returned to his men, his shield was so battered that its shape was scarce to be discerned. When a second assault began, the Ottoman attempted to breach the gate with their lances. After suffering heavy casualties, the attackers retreated. Sultan Murad II held a council with all his generals for the next 2 days. As an immediate precaution, he decided to guard the camp against another surprise attack, placing a force of men under the command of Prince Mehmed at the site of the first attack. Moisi Aryan at Galami feigned an attack with about 500 horsemen, causing an alarm to be raised. The Ottoman prepared for his attack while Skanderbeg and his forces maneuvered around the camp and broke in where they were least expected. Before an organized counterattack could be launched, Skanderbeg retreated from the camp. His attacks caused the Ottoman to aim some of their cannons towards the expected guerrilla forces instead of a fortress. A large force of Ottoman cavalry was dispatched, which Skanderbeg followed up to the mouth of the Ishim River until they turned back towards Krujë. While Skanderbeg was away, a large Ottoman assault was launched on Krujë from the Tirana side, but inadvertent friendly fire forced the Ottoman to call off the assault. The Ottomans then attempted to mine the fortress, but were unsuccessful as it was built on rock. With food supplies running low, both the Ottoman and the Albanians received provisions from Venice. The Ottoman attacks made no headway, and the Ottoman army suffered many casualties, while Skanderbeg's forces had minimal losses. Moisi Galami and Tunush Topia raised a couple thousand more men, and the force was split between the three leaders, making attacks on the Ottoman camp easier. Skanderbeg began to move towards the camp as the Ottoman assembled 8,000 men, which began to move towards him. Skanderbeg slowly retreated while Moisi and Tunush broke into the camp. The Ottoman force sent against Skanderbeg was lured towards the foothills, and the next morning, July 25th, they were surrounded and destroyed completely. The next day, Skanderbeg was seen above the rocks of Krujë in conference with Vrana Konti, surprising Murad. He laughed sardonically, perhaps realizing it might be wiser to leave the wild, ferocious lion alone. After Vrana had returned to the castle, a pasha was chosen to have a conference with Vrana, bringing him many rich presents. The pasha tried to convince the count that Murad would be a more suitable master than Skanderbeg was, and that the siege was almost over, but Vrana refused to surrender. As a result, drums and trumpets announced another assault on Krujë, with the Ottomans storming forth under their own artillery fire. Yet, the defenses held strong once more. When miners tried to dig beneath the fortress, they were thwarted by a solid rock. After a third failed assault, Murad dispatched an envoy to persuade Skanderbeg to surrender, offering an annual payment of 10,000 crowns. Skanderbeg firmly declined, responding, "Even if Murad would share his entire empire with me, I would never allow the name of Albania to be tarnished with such disgrace and infamy." During the siege, Venetians attempted to supply the Ottomans again. Skanderbeg intercepted these supplies, preventing them from reaching the Ottoman camp and further demoralizing their forces. As the siege prolonged, Ottoman supply lines strained, further weakened by Skanderbeg's continuous attacks. By September, the Ottomans realized they could not capture Krujë. Low morale, disease, and Skanderbeg's tactics forced Sultan Murad II to think of lifting the siege. As winter approached, out of fear of losing even more men from the Albanian winter, Murad was forced to concede failure, and on October 26th, he marched back to Edirne. The siege cost 20,000 Ottoman casualties and over 1,000 Albanian casualties. However, the retreat itself caused the loss of thousands of Ottoman troops due to attacks from local Albanian militias, totaling to almost 40,000 casualties. The defenders viewed this as a significant victory, having resisted the substantial Ottoman force. Stricken by illness, Murad passed away in January 1451. Skanderbeg had reached the limits of his resources. He traveled to Ragusa to seek assistance, and the Ragusans informed Pope Nicholas V of his plight. With financial support, Skanderbeg was able to hold onto Krujë and reclaim much of his territory. His success garnered praise from across Europe, with ambassadors arriving from Rome, Naples, Hungary, and Burgundy. According to legend, one night during the siege, Skanderbeg devised a clever ruse by sending out a herd of goats with candles affixed to their horns. The encamped Ottomans, mistaking the illuminated herd for an Albanian assault, advanced to engage what they believed was an attacking force. As the Ottomans moved closer, Skanderbeg launched a surprise attack, decimating the enemy troops. After the siege was lifted, Skanderbeg celebrated his victory by designing a helmet adorned with a goat's head, symbolizing the ingenious tactic he employed that night. The account of the first siege of Krujë illustrates Skanderbeg's strategic acumen and the determination of his forces, demonstrating the effectiveness of unconventional warfare. The successful defense of Krujë became a powerful symbol of resistance against the Ottoman Empire. Skanderbeg's leadership and the resilience of the Albanian people inspired other European nations to resist Ottoman expansion. The siege showcased Skanderbeg's innovative military tactics, including guerrilla warfare and psychological warfare. His ability to outmaneuver and demoralize a much larger Ottoman force became a case study in military strategy. The siege led to important political alliances for Skanderbeg. In 1451, he became a vassal of Alfonso V of Aragon through the Treaty of Gaeta, securing much-needed military and financial support. Skanderbeg's legacy as a national hero and defender of Christian Europe against the Ottomans was cemented by his success at Krujë.